A couple more items on the agenda. Charlie, take it away.
We don't have as many people as Senate.
If you have your laptops open,
It's alright.
you have your laptops.
I'll provide all the dissent you need.
Okay.
Are they wearing a mic? No, I'm kidding. Try this.
I got it on sale.
Where?
On board.
We've already sent that live stream. Yeah, we're going to
That's fine.
For Jackman? He's over there? Use it tomorrow. We're so like.
I mean,
I'll be inside.
I'll be in my room.
The very bottom.
That you know what I mean.
Really?
Oh no.
Is this an executive? I need to get old Hispanics to that.
Yes.
Where is it?
Yeah, go for it.
You think you do well?
Oh,
No,
We get one drop.
Hey, Carly, where's this in the where's this in the shared folder?
I don't know if
It's not in the shared folder, it's in the SGA.
You next week at
If you go to the SGA website, I was wondering that tomorrow.
Okay, so here is the budget. Probably sent to you in an email before. I know Colin has talked about it with you as well. This is the proposed budget. This is the proposed budget for FY20. Fiscal year 2020 starts July 1st, 2019. So yeah, I think all of us have had time to look through the budget and kind of see things. So I'm just going to kind of run through it, and then if people are like, what is that? We could talk about it a little bit. So administrative overhead, that is just a basic, I think it's 4%, or yeah, 4% of our overall budget that we have to pay as administrative overhead to student affairs, to just be kind of like within the campus, or within Commons, and it's just like a fee that we have to pay as SGA to student affairs. So that is risen to, I think it's just because of the increase in 4% is it's increasing from last year. Okay. County associate, we pay for David Royer's salary as well as Kansas salary and benefits as well. So this is just keeping with those same benefits, and then we took off 190 from Kansas's budget line item just to make it even, because why not? It helps to balance the budget.
Why not?
Well, balance the budget.
You like even numbers here, alright?
I don't like to be on this. So. Yeah. So yeah, we're contributing 14,000 to civic agency. Basically, David Kaufman's new Center for Democracy and Civic Life. Part of the salary. I lied. Yes, Scott.
Is that 14,000 like part of the administration that we can't touch? Are we choosing to contribute that?
There is an MOU signed between SGA and the center that we provide $14,000 of his salary.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a question. So what's that summary right there? Or this is from on B115 of the operating budget. So that Senate allocations fund is getting decreased because they don't use that line item as much, and it doesn't make sense to keep a line item at a price where it isn't being used. So it's been decreased. SAB is the same as both last year. The change to the Retriever Weekly was based on us recently finding out that the amount of money that the Retriever has in reserves is approximately $130,000, whereas their operating budget for the year is $100,000, $60,000 of which has typically come from SGA. So this was a decision to cut that to half of what we typically provide so that they can bring their reserves more in order and use that money since it shouldn't be like more than their whole budget.
Should it be 20%?
So it should be around 15 to 30%. Ideally, that is how SGA operates in terms of our reserves. It shouldn't be more than 30% of our budget. Right now, we're like on the high end of our reserves, so we are working to kind of this over budgets what is being expected as our incoming revenue for next year. So as an effort to use some of our reserves, since our reserves are around 300,000, 340,000. So this is a cut not to say the retriever doesn't deserve all our money or a jab against them, but to say like we are in support of the retriever, but we want them to be using their reserves to kind of mitigate that savings, I guess. So. And then this was kind of in an effort. It was about $295 before, but cutting $30,000 from reserve, we wanted to reallocate to other parts of the budget. So that's where more of the money has come into the club budget fund. And if y'all don't already know, this is not just for, well, it's for finance board use, but this also incorporates the merchandise and marketing fund in there as well. Okay. Targeting setup costs for the election board. This total kind of came from the fact that like the full $8,000 was not used from last year, and it was approximated that like a little over $4,000 would be enough to run an election with the setup costs, especially if we're doing like in-person elections now. And then we kind of, there's a formula talking about all the stipends for election board as well as elected members. Promotional items, just kind of general line item that doesn't often get used. And the purpose of kind of general these cuts was for Colin and I to break down as like what line items are actually being used in the budget and what ones aren't. How can we actually reevaluate what should SGA be putting the student activity fee towards versus what we should, and trying to mitigate that to budget things appropriately for FY20. Yes, office operations, kind of a random line item that was cut last year, so we don't feel like we need to put more money into that. Copier rental, because that's the least like thing that we have to pay to use the copier. Office supplies stays the same. And then equipment usage was up from last year because we got the recording document and we got some updated furniture in the SGA office. Programming support, all of this stuff is staying the same. Meeting support is going up, and that's for use of this space for Senate and Finance Board meetings, is mostly what that pays for. And the slight cut to the stress free zone was more to balance the budget than anything, so that we can get a perfect number. We were aiming to budget $1,113,000 or so, because we're expecting revenue of $1,040,000 to $50,000, and we want to use at least like $60,000 or so. Where's that? Yes. Cutting the college leadership program because people aren't using it, and it doesn't make sense to keep throwing $10,000 at a newspaper that hardly anyone picks up, and we believe that more professors pick up on the newspapers that are around campus than students, so we decided to cut that. Retriever Project Recognition Program is something that I think just fell through or isn't real, it doesn't make sense for us to be paying it. So, yeah. And then E&E, we don't need that for next year because there's no election. Okay. And then these got moved over to the Finance Board file. This is a new line item for the new allocation system we're getting. Candace and I and Daniel have been in communication with about not using DocuSign for the Finance Board allocation process. So we're currently about to go into a contract, or like basically about to sign a contract with SurveyMonkey to use their kind of application grant service, because it's a lot more valuable and it works a lot better for our needs. And there will be more to come on that. We're meeting with them in weeks. And then we're just renaming Prove It stuff to actually say, you know, the name of the new Prove It winner instead of the name of what the actual fine was for the winners. We cut the MPEC and USMC travel costs because they don't really get used that much and it doesn't need to be $2,000. Stipends. So the formula that Colin and I came up with for stipends, but basically the formula, it used to be based on a very arbitrary number that like some past Senate or Finance Board said, okay, this would be the base number, and then it was a multiplier on that base number of like, the base number is how much a senator or Finance Board rep makes. And then every position above that would make 2 times that or 3 times that, and it would be a multiplier on that. And it got so out of hand that what we have now is senators and Finance Board reps making about $750 while the president makes $7,000. So making like almost 10 times more than what a Finance Board rep and senator make. So we changed that up so that it would be more equitable standards for stipends across the board, and it wouldn't be so ridiculously out of hand in discrepancy between what a basic level elected officer makes versus what the president makes. And so the multiplier came up, I don't know if this is in the presentation as well.
30 slides.
37.
Ooh, 30.
37 slides. Actually, why don't I just close that? I don't know how to do that. There you go. Okay. I don't know. Presentation or second? Yeah, it's like way back. At the front or at the back?
So towards the middle.
Go to the back.
Okay. So obviously it was to increase stipends and also accounting for 2 additional Finance Board representatives in this new stipend. So this is the variance between how it was last year and how we're proposing it, or how it is this year and how we're proposing it for next year. And all of them are stipend increases to make it a more equitable leadership position experience, so that more people are willing and wanting to run in the SGA elections and for retention's sake and reducing financial disadvantage, I guess. The formula. So this is. Okay. Here it is. Okay. So this is the base number up here, the 494, and this number is not some random number. It is the institutional statewide credit hour cost. So 1 credit at a state university is $494, and so it's a multiplier based on that. So based on 15 credit hours is where the new president's stipend would come, which is only a slight increase compared to what it is now. And then we kind of went down from there based off of that. So, okay, 12 times 494 would give us a little under 6,000 for the other 3 board exec people. And then based on that, we did 9 credit hours for Senate and Finance Board. So, yeah. And we're thinking about changing the speaker and chair stipends to be the same, whereas instead of like the speaker gets 0.5 an extra credit, and the assistant speaker gets 0.25 an extra credit, they would be the same kind of bonus extra money kind of going into your stipend, if that makes sense. So instead of what it is now, which is like the speaker of the Senate, or I guess the chair of the Finance Board makes like about twice as much as, or not 3 times as much as the Finance Board representative, where the assistant or vice chair makes 1.5 times as much as the current Finance Board representative. This makes it more equitable and like less difference between the speaker and assistant speaker and the rest of the body, so that like people are actually running for those leadership positions within the legislative branch out of like wanting to run for those positions and like having, instead of like for the pay raise. If that makes sense. Are there any questions or clarifying points on this and the papers? I feel like I'm just like kind of rambling on and I don't want to like lose anyone. Yeah?
So in basing it off the credit hours, is that just like kind of based on how much work is being put in?
Yeah, so the credit hour, we tried to do the multiplier kind of based on, yeah, like who's putting in like the most work.
Or
Like,
expected?
yeah, whereas like
Okay.
president is like kind of like a full-time position, so having that at like 15 credit hours
Yeah.
makes sense, and then kind of like we just dialed it back from there, I guess, to make
Okay.
it
Okay.
comparable. So, yeah. Okay. And so this would be like the new total pot of stipend money. And this just goes into more like explaining the differences and reducing the discrepancy, like I said, where the difference between president and a like senator or finance board rep is like almost 9.5 times more, whereas the difference with the new stipend will only be like 1.6 times. The president's only making 1.67 times as much as the finance board rep or senator. So, some kind of breakdown here. And this, we're doing this also to be competitive and comparable to other on-campus jobs like RA and desk staffer who make a big minimum wage and like work however many hours a week, so that we're more competitive with that as well. Retention and all that stuff. Are there any questions, concerns on stipends? Does anyone want to go through that more?
Oh, good.
Nope. Okay, cool. Great. That. Super duper. The other thing Colin and I looked a lot about is university co-sponsorships and basically how is SGA money effectively being used in these co-sponsorships / do these university partners know that they have money coming in from SGA, which when we met with people, a lot of them did not know that they had money from SGA for certain programs and items. So we kind of went through this, and after meeting with certain people, decided to like cut whatever certain line items that were budgeted for them based on like, is it being effectively used? Does it make sense for SGA to keep paying this? And that these cuts also kind of went into making stipends more equitable for SGA. So with the library, we decided to cut the DVD collection to 500, and cut the money for the hydration station management, because that should be managed by the library because it's in the library. So,
Oh, that's perfect.
oh, we're doing that soon. Oh, my bad. You're right. We're keeping plumbing and homecoming the same because that they need that funding, and they're staples kind of university. Commuter week we are cutting back on, as well as being more in commuters because again, it's something like, where is SGA getting the best representation and the best bang for our buck in supporting these events and programs on campus? Yeah.
So the reason why you're cutting funding this is because there's not enough SGA representation there?
Well, kind of. There's like not as much involvement with SGA in planning either of these events, the Commuter Weekly or Good Morning Commuters, and we feel like SGA should be such a essential source for funding of these events. Like if this funding should be coming from within OCSS and kind of like generated on their own behalf, I guess, if that makes more sense. You have anything, Scott?
I said to try and explain it too, from my understanding.
Okay. Yeah.
These numbers were reached in collaboration with OCSS.
Yes. Yes. And we met with everyone, all the campus partners here to kind of go over like these cuts and like understand that like it's not supporting of these programs. It is just simply like, does it make the most sense for SGA to be providing funding for that / is that funding effective, like being used? Like, do they know that they have funding?
I did understand what you said, so I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I just want to get that perspective. Okay. Campus Life Involvement Fest, seeing as like these events are, well, like the Student Leadership Awards ceremony is something that like I think they didn't even know they had SGA money for, or it's something that doesn't make the most sense for SGA to be paying for it, since I think it's hosted by Student Affairs. And so the Involvement Fest, seeing it says the university staple, like we're kind of trying to phase out necessarily like SGA funding within that, because it should be something that other parts of the university could be and should be paying for as well. Yes, so this is getting changed to, we're supporting the Center for Democracy and Civic Life with $19,500 that's being added to that, and that's what this is. We're cutting back on bike share because we're trying to get athletics to work with transit on like that kind of partnership, and kind of build bike share into something that could be incorporated into their budgets more so. Do you have hands back?
Mm-hmm. Can you go more into the line item for civic learning and democracy?
Okay, yeah. So this is for support of Strive as well as other kind of whatever center programs are being used. So the main one, it was, since like the center is new, it's meant to kind of support them in like paying for Strive and other center kind of events. I don't have like too much else to speak on that. Is there questions there? Yeah.
So if we're cutting back on other programs because it should be up to universities notice to help pay for them, why are we now contributing nearly $20,000 out of our budget to a program that is not run by us?
So I don't know, Candace, if you
So contributing to Strive is not new.
Well, yeah.
SGA has contributed $16,000. My understanding is that Colin and the center are in negotiations around an MOU for this money. And there's language in there that says that SGA would have representatives to be involved in the planning of programs that uses this money.
All right. Yeah, no, it just looked like a lump
No,
sum
yeah,
given.
yeah.
That's
a yeah, fair.
It still kind of seems like that's a lot of money for Strive, though, considering the amount of people there. You're contributing almost $20,000.
Yes, well, obviously not all of this money would go towards Strive. It is kind of for Strive and other center program support, whereas, like Candace said, more SGA representatives would be involved with the center and planning those programs and involved with Strive as well, and how that goes.
It is a lot of money.
And it is.
It is largely the space.
So we're going to reflect share a little bit. Take Back the Night, we met with Jess Myers, the director of the Women's Center, and she said that she did not need nor use the whole $2,500 that was budgeted for this fiscal year. So cutting back to $1,500, she said, was perfectly reasonable and like enough money for them to operate for Take Back the Night and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, yeah, that's that. Arts partnership. So this line item is like, it doesn't make the most sense for SU to be paying for it because it's the arts partnership with COS, and from my understanding, it's similar to, if not like the same as, paying for essentially like student tickets to be reserved for theater department like events and stuff. Which, if theater department wants students to come to their events, they should be kind of subsidizing those tickets or putting those tickets aside for themselves to get like UMC students to be coming to those events, and not necessarily making SGA pay for those tickets to students to come, like, because that's their problem essentially. Does that make sense? Kind of question there. So cutting that to make it kind of the theater department's prerogative, or COS's prerogative, if they want more students kind of involved in their productions or like coming to their productions, that should be kind of like under their own discretion of how to do that. Yeah. And the student events manager was supposed to be the person working in the POB with like the MOU that was to be that was signed between SGA and them for allowing student works to use the pod as space for performances and stuff. We still have not seen a return on that since last year, so we're just kind of cutting back on that from 6,000 to 5,000 because that hasn't come to fruition yet. So that's where that came from. And this is, yes, this is like the. Oh, so the $30,000 we were supposed to initially fund in that MOU. We were going to give them, or we did give them $50,000 as insurance money to allow student organizations to use that space. The first of which was paid $20,000 in fiscal year 18, I believe, and then it was $30,000 paid in this fiscal year. So that $50,000 insurance payment has already been paid down.
Okay. I have a question. Since we haven't been able to actually get access to it, can we get our money back?
Mm-hmm.
We can't get our
No,
money back?
if it's budgeted, that's like.
It's already budgeted. Can we ask them to return it? Because
Or can we, I mean,
is there nothing we can do to recover these funds? Because we've spent $50,000 to get them.
yeah, I can recover funds or
It's more
insurance.
an insurance fund.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
It's not really to be
So-
put towards
Well,
anything.
even within that though, like, okay, sure. It's an insurance fund on the condition that we would actually get space for it and they would fulfill their side of the conditional. So give us the money back. Or continue, fulfill the condition and then we don't continue to pay forward. It's like, well, what's the goal of this fund?
Then we're just cutting it off, then we'll just.
Yeah, we're just losing
$50,000
$50,000.
even though there's a signed MOU there. It doesn't make sense to just cut it off. and
It's a
go
bridge
forward.
contract, isn't it?
That's money that could be used for things that you guys want. So, I can even just have
I mean, we're still in like contact with Bob, and we're trying to go through this. That has like been a process of implementing the MOU because, I mean, it's in the shared drive, so you can read it, but it is kind of like, in my opinion, it's a little bit of vague. It's a little vague in terms of the document, what it intends to do. So we are working through that. But in terms of like funding, both parties, like it's a both party consent document. So like to change anything, besides like the 2,500, obviously SGA can vote to kind of defund that, which is an MOU, it's under our authority. But with the like insurance and other terms of MOU, it has to be agreed upon by both parties. So that's what I would say on terms of like.
It's basically that, the agreement was made, he gives access to the top, we give you $50,000 of insurance. They didn't hold up on their end, we still gave them $50,000. I imagine they're free to do what they want with that $50,000 now.
I don't think
So,
it's that.
I think that
Yeah.
you could make the case that the MOU's for 5 years, so they have 5 years to give access to students. It doesn't say, my understanding that there's not a
Yeah.
timeline of expectations.
Yeah, I would encourage like
Which, you didn't write it.
yeah, so-
You've written it differently.
Yeah, I love
That's
it.
what it is.
So that's, I mean, if anybody's interested in that, we are like continuing to work with POW operations specifically, and also talking to Dean Casper. But the way it's written and the way it was implemented is,
So functionally, at the end of 5 years, we still have access, what happens then?
I think that's a question for Rouse.
So, yeah.
That's a great.
And there is potentially, well, there is the opportunity. Colin and I are talking about, like, we're meeting with COS, I think, next week, I believe next Tuesday.
And for
Yeah, to kind of go over, like, this MOU and, like, how we're actually going to make sure that like, student artists eventually have access to this space, and that someone actually gets hired to use the student events manager like, money. Yeah, and so Colin and I are reconsidering, like, continuing with the MOU. There is the ability to kind of redact it, or SGA to pull out if there's like a 2/3 vote by both the Senate and Finance Board. And we're kind of waiting to reevaluate with COS, and like we're trying to work with them first before saying like we're gonna pull out of the MOU. So, but your concerns are valid, and I hear you, and it's a lot of money spent and not used in any capacity to help students. So I definitely understand that concern. We're just kind of evaluating our options right now. If that makes sense. And
Very well.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
yeah, we're cutting that because that's not really happening within SGA and UBC's jurisdiction anymore. So it doesn't make sense for SGA to be paying for that. Yep.
Wait, what do you mean by sound our jurisdiction anymore?
There's a legal issue
So,
with that.
yes, so
I love legal issues.
my understanding is the premise around Open Mocha was to have a coffee shop and that have that coffee shop post profits and then use those profits to then fund other things within Open Mocha. As a nonprofit, the state entity can't make a profit. So that is defeats the whole business model. And so at this point,
Can you see this one coming?
UMBC is
It's in
tied.
the name.
UMBC is tied to a lease for a space that they have, my understanding, subleased or working to sublease to a coffee shop, or
Yeah.
who then operate in that space and make coffee.
But there is like the idea of like people can still use that space. Like student
Yes.
orgs can still request to use that space and that money like
It is still a
Transit
UMBC
yes.
space, just like the Commons is a UMBC
Okay.
space, but Chartwell's operates within that space.
Okay.
Similar.
Great. There's a lot of trouble.
Yeah, correct. Right, so much trouble.
so we haven't worked out the logistics on like I think it would be
I think
regulated.
$80,000 brings us at least that.
Right, you'd think.
You'd think.
Sorry.
Alright. Very well. On to the next.
You're kind of like contracts, that's just like legal, like.
Yeah.
Were you
I'm
gonna
not
say
gonna
something?
comment.
Oh, were you gonna say something?
I'll put no comment on that.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, fun times there. Okay, and that is the operating budget. And yeah,
That's
so
it?
just the tree development and training, administrative supplies.
Is everything else okay? Some small stuff here and there.
Yeah, I mean, for my budget, I added in a spring retreat for new officers and an election board retreat for election board. Those were not previously budgeted.
Okay. We don't have any control over this, so Candace, you do you.
So we're
Good job,
Yeah.
Good job, Candace. You see that's like fortunate.
and trying to budget realistic numbers. Like I didn't need, I don't, $5,000 for a winter retreat. That's exorbitant. You don't need that for a winter retreat. You don't. Just don't need it.
Yeah. All right. So that's the budget. Is that the budget?
Yep.
Okay, everyone. Thoughts?
I like how.
We're not voting on this today.
Not today,
This is
obviously.
just, like-
We're looking at May 5th, not May, March 5th. The last thing I do, okay, I guess we should finally pass the budget, everyone. March 5th. Look.
So, Brenda, were you at Senate last night?
It was.
Can you explain what happened before I walked in?
Oh boy.
Which part?
The angry one?
The angry one?
They're all angry.
So, I'll say that this is a proposal. It's the first proposal of the budget. And the reason we've opened it up for public comment, which hasn't really been done before, is to get feedback on it. So, it is possible that the budget that you vote on will be different, and a lot of these, like Carly mentioned, meetings still have to happen, stuff is still in negotiation. So I would say take this as a first proposal, just like Senate took it as a first proposal. Colin and Carly are taking any feedback you have, and we will vote on it next week. Or the week after.
2 weeks.
Week after.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 whole weeks. Right. I mean, I think there's a discussion that needs to be had about this. If you have any concerns, I mean, I have a couple of small things here and there, you know, and, but actually not small things, but like, you know, things that I do want to talk about. But at the current moment, I'm going to have to joke, Eric, you know. I appreciate the work that you've done, and as well, Colin. I don't know if you come up with, but Okay. Are we good to move off this one? Because there's more pressing matters. The finance board reforms, everyone. The reason why we're all here, right? Okay. It is finance board reforms. So, we had the town hall yesterday, and it went okay. Yeah. I think it was an adequate thing. Organizations gave us a lot of feedback. So a couple things that I'm looking to implement in the new round is that so a reallocation process does need to be in place. So the idea of reallocation would be more like, the reallocation would be, it's like, okay, you want to drastically change what your budget request proposal said, essentially. Instead of having a showcasing of my culture, whatever it is, you take it in an entirely different direction. Those type of things will grant organizations the ability, I think we should grant organizations the ability to petition the board for those types of changes, and just to make sure that things go smoothly. And you can't just spend, I want to just simply change this to a general body meeting, and we can get things in the butt there, just in case they run about. Furthermore, what Scott came up with this idea is that when they were filling out res gaps and stuff like that, at the very bottom, assigned finance board liaisons would need to go through and make sure that they were in compliance with SGA university policy. Put another layer of oversight, and so you can keep organizations accountable and avoid penalties. Another thing that I was thinking of implementing is that recently I've been hearing that there's been talks of certain groups of organizations seeking to find a seat at the board to favor their type of organization. Of course, that's not what the purpose of the finance board is. The purpose of the finance board is for the benefit of all USBC undergraduate students. So what I'm proposing instead for the role of the chair is we shift the role of the chair. In the vision that I have currently, the chair would no longer be a voting, would only vote in matters of tiebreaking. Only in matters of tiebreaking. The primary role of the finance board is to, the chair of the finance board is to ensure that the finance board remains impartial, that the finance board follows its own policies, and it's to essentially act as a bit of an oversight type thing as well. It's just like, it's to steer the finance board to make sure that they go in the correct direction. We can't allow this new process to turn back into what the House of Organization was called, Carly?
Yes.
Yeah. Where there was this constant fighting, and organizations simply undercutting each other. Yeah, go ahead.
So so the House of Organizations was basically what used to be the finance board before it was the finance board. And the House of Organizations was like, you had a representative from either every organization or every certain group of student organizations who would come together. There were different committees that student orgs would be part of, but everyone only really cared about the finance committee because they allocated funds to student organizations. So everyone wanted to be on the finance committee to represent their orgs and try to get the most for their org that they could. And it was a similar kind of budget system, I believe, that they had.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we want to try to be mindful of that and not repeat the past in terms of people just trying to run to represent their org and their org only because of the said that's not the point of this board.
So one of the additional requirements that we'll put on the chair is that I was hoping to put is that the chair cannot sit on any boards other than the finance board. The chair of the finance board is responsible solely for the chair, solely for the chair, to help with stuff, well-being, etc. But also, the only interest that they should have on campus is that the finance board runs correctly, the finance board is run well, and the finance board is fair. Yeah. Furthermore, we would extend that, I believe, as well to the vice chair to ensure that these type of things were occurring as well. But yeah, so that's another addition that I'd like to have. Is we do not want to return back to what it was 10 years ago. From what I recall from stories David told us, as well as mostly David, it was not a pretty place to be. So we definitely need to avoid heavy politicization. What's the word I'm looking for?
Politicization.
Yeah, that. We do not. The finance board should not be a political organization. policies.
Was Mike just when you got here, or?
It was not. At that time, we were still in the finance board operation.
Okay.
So,
Let us know.
yeah.
Oh, 10 years.
Okay, so I'm actually looking for additional ideas on how we can avoid that. Because, yeah, that's not good. That's not the point of this organization.
So if the chair is not like allowed to vote unless the tiebreakers, how does it work on a board of 7?
It would be on a board of 9 in theory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you mean?
Well, what about the implementation cycle?
The implementation cycle?
Because the board, like the elections this coming year,
Yeah.
won't be for
That
9
is
seasons.
a question that we need to figure out. Yeah, that is a question we need to figure out. Because the chicken or the
No,
egg?
I think you have a board of 7
Yeah.
currently, or that's how many seats you have.
Yeah,
So it's 3 and 3, then the chair votes,
that breaks the tie.
right?
Okay.
6
But,
and 7.
yeah, okay.
But if it's 4 and 2, the chair doesn't vote.
Yeah, I know
Well,
that, but I'm just
it
saying,
doesn't
like,
matter.
when you have an
Right.
even numbers, well, like.
Well, you don't have any. Right now, you have even number 2 vacant seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if the chair inherently doesn't vote, like.
Well, they voted tiebreakers.
It would go to tie.
Yeah, and that's the only time when it didn't matter. And the other time, the vote of the chair doesn't change anything, functionally. It's just like, okay, if it's a 5-2 vote, or, well,
Or 4-2.
a 4-2 vote at the current moment, or, yeah, the chair voting no doesn't change anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if it's like if you have like I know like the board would still be 7, but if the 6 of them was taking into consideration, I would just feel like if you have an even number to like in that context, you're more likely to end in tiebreakers anyway, because you already have an inherently like 3 number. That's just like my perception.
I find the chair of the board would be able to exercise their voting rights.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's generally outside of that, they should be the ones monitoring
Okay.
the
Okay.
board.
Makes sense.
So,
But also the other question I think we want to talk, but I'm pretty sure like a constitutional amendment like would have to take effect the next cycle. Yeah, I don't think it would concur with.
yeah, we need to figure that one out.
Elections.
Yeah.
So what?
Whether
For running a 9 board member instead of 7, because like since the like the advocate like it doesn't
because
I don't think constitution.
you pass the constitutional thing first through the election, and then it goes through not.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
talk about
that needs
that
to be.
one. Chris Kasich is UMBC General Counsel. Awesome, great guy. You know the Finance Board statutes.
Did he get back to them?
He's currently passing it off to someone something to review.
Oh.
So
Well, we
yeah.
just need a lawyer for that.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'd like to implement. The next subject, of course, is within many ways a response to the issue that the theater organizations are facing. It's something I'd like. It's an option that I think the Finance Board should be considering. Is that, in my opinion, we should allow student organizations to charge ticketing to UMC undergraduates. Yeah. The primary reason I see this is because right now, the Finance Board, not next year, but right now, we have $275,000, right? There's been a growing number of student organizations on campus. They wish to do bigger and bigger things. With $275,000, we obviously cannot continue to sustain that. So I don't think it's possible, to be honest. So currently, the Finance Board serves as an artificial limiter on how big an organization's event can get. You know, it's just like in the example of ESA last week with Lil Dude. Okay, they wanted to have that, but I don't think it's feasible for them to have raised $2,000 worth of fundraising. You know, or like in the case of MTC and TheaterCom, I don't think it was reasonable to expect that a student organization is able to raise $2,000, $3,000. Fundraising is extraordinarily difficult thing to do. And with the turnover that boards do experience, that knowledge doesn't stick around. And I don't think it's particularly reliable. Furthermore, I feel like, okay, for MTC and for TheaterCom, it creates a bit more independence from what the Finance Board is doing, you know? It's just like, yes, we are happy. Finance Board still maintains the majority of control, usually. Generally speaking, the Finance Board would retain the majority of control. However, in instances where we aren't able to assist, it gives them an option. They can take the risk for it if they'd like to. Technically speaking, within the finance board guiding documents, they are allowed to, but we simply have added a conditional on, at least with time we've been here, that there's a conditional stating that if you accept finance board funding, the event has to be open and free to undergraduate students. Yes, SGA honestly feels like finance board is literally the only organization on campus that just sticks to that one. You know? SCB charges students to attend concerts, to attend Pop Mania, to attend various things, and they are funded through us as well, and then through the student activity fees. So I understand there is a concern, of course, with double dipping. I recognize that, but I think it's time we move forward with it. I think there are downsides to having a charge ticket system. I think there are numerous upsides. I think, for example, for PSA, they had sold out all their tickets, right? But when the night came, only 197 people showed up. The tickets are free. Yeah, it doesn't matter that much. If you don't go, you don't have much of a financial stake in it. So I think ticketing would be a step forward. Thoughts?
I think you get some, like, I don't think as many student organizations would be as on board with that initially, just because they'd be like, we don't want to charge students because then that means like few people would be able to come or wanting to come because they have to pay to come, so why would they want to pay for an event to come do it? And like, I understand the point about like, oh, they have more buy-in. They literally have buy-in with coming to the event if they buy a ticket. Yeah, I'm like more worried about the double dipping aspect of it and like the whole now cultural norm of it, of like students don't pay for on-campus events, and like how will student orgs take that? How will students attending these events take that? I don't know, but yeah.
In my opinion, like the characterization that students don't pay for on-campus events isn't true. We do. You know, it's just like to attend theater, to attend various things outside on campus, we definitely pay for things. I mean, athletics is nice enough when their budget's large enough where they don't have to, but I don't think the finance board has that freedom. Actually, Kenneth, I'm going to go for Scott and then you, and then say, Scott.
So I kind of understand that argument, and with the amount of off-campus tickets that both theater organizations put in there that they can charge tickets for, I think if like we were able to charge UMBC students, they wouldn't be as dependent on charging like outside people and trying to bring them in, or like family members, and it would be more catered towards UMBC students. But the double dipping argument, like something that I suggested last semester when we were kind of running out of funds, is that the core event isn't monetized, but they could like sell food or do like food fundraisers within their events or other fundraisers. So people would still be able to get the core event, but they could get an added bonus if they wanted to spend money at the event and support the organization.
Yeah. I have a concern with that, but I'm like Candace to take the mission. So Candace?
I mean, I think what I hear you saying, Daniel, is that you wouldn't necessarily be requiring student orgs to charge, but they have the option if they want it.
Yeah. We grant them the agency to choose.
Because right now, you operate under
It's forbidden.
Oh yeah, I think one of my concerns with Carla was like the double dipping and the characterization. I think in terms of like comparing to SCV, I think like that's like subsidized, like because their like trips and the things they do are like larger scale, like more expensive in general anyway. Because like when you take like bus trips or things like what they do, like that's subsidized, so that's why like obviously prices are lower. But I think with like student orders just having the ability to like go to an event on the weekend and not even expecting to pay for it. I mean, kind of like what Candace says. I mean, I guess I could go either way on it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
too convinced.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So I think also it's important to think about this in terms of the reform that you have planned already and how it adds a layer of complication just in that process, because I'm assuming that if an org came to you and said, we are ticketing and we're expecting this much revenue, that would change the amount that you would then allocate them, or it would affect it in some way. So, yeah.
The idea that I have, since you have a limit for 20,000 for how much you can give to a single board, you usually want to, if maybe their budget is over, or it costs more than this X amount for their event, they could be allowed to. I don't know if that's possible or not.
So actually, what we're looking at for a on-campus cap is around $30 to $35. So cap out around 9,900-ish, I believe, is the number. So per event. So
Oh, for the Mac.
yeah, for the max. Yeah. I mean, yeah, those are all valid concerns. I just want to give the option.
Yeah, no, I
that's the big thing. We're not going to force them to. It's not like fine school will say, yeah, you have to charge $5. No. It's, in my opinion, it's like, okay, we have to come to the realization that we don't have enough money to fund every single org on campus for what they want to do. It's a given of what the amount that's part of the power, actually, you know? The ability to choose where the money goes. And recognizing that, you have to give a better out than, oh yeah, just go fundraise. Like, I've done fundraising, it's difficult. To me, honestly, sometimes it literally just feels like begging. And we, in SGA, we don't have to do it. You know, we're lucky enough where we get a constant revenue stream. And I don't, on campus, what are successful revenue raisers, like fundraisers, you know? Okay, we have literally student organizations every single week sitting in the breezeway trying to sell pastries, etc. to students. And I'm like, okay, I guess. How effective is that? I mean, from what I've been told, because for you accept those various things, you don't get that much money out of it. Maybe a couple hundred if you're lucky. It doesn't come close to the thousands of dollars that sometimes what these orgs need. I just like, if the organization really wants to hold it and they believe that it's possible, well, why is the founders board standing in the way? You really think, if you honestly think, yes, there is an on-campus demand for this, people will want to come and see this, but if the finance board can't give us all the money for it, at that point, if they really wanted to have that event, the finance board said, we can only give you this much, but it's not enough to have the event's dead, right? We simply said, no, can't happen. I want to give them the option to say, yeah, okay, thanks for the help. We're going to see what we can do. Rather than just closing the door functionally. But that's me. My concern about your thing, Scott, though, is that obviously that requires prepay. Someone has to buy the item / whatever it is first. The way that I had thought about it was due to the pre-sale, like you know how concert functions. Through the pre-sale of tickets, they're able to determine how much they need and stuff like that. The costs are determined, the pre-sale of tickets helps them reach that level, so they can actually bring stuff. Let's buy it, hope that, you know, yeah, that's not my favorite, you know, it's just like, that exposes us significantly, in my opinion. But, yeah, no, it's definitely something that organizations could do, you know? But I think we just have to give them an option. Of course, you know, if there is enough support for this, obviously we can continue moving forward. But it's just definitely something I think everyone would consider. I'm probably going to go, I'm probably going to reach out to a couple organizations and just see what they think, you know? It's just like, if they want it, if they really think that'll help them, I'm willing to give it to them. I think let's give them the ability to actually fight for what they want a little bit. Yeah. But, okay, other things other than that. Finance board reform, unless there's additional comments.
On that particular, on your particular.
Yeah, on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So if we don't have anything to on that one, all right, we can move on. Other things on finance board reforms. Those are the big three things that I wanted to do. Remember, part of these proposed reforms is also we need to get a liaison system document set up as well. I'm looking for you to help me out on that one. There isn't any specific language on it right now, so we're drafting this one from the ground up. We need to get this done as soon as possible. So if anyone wants to help write this one out on a, random night, I'm always looking for help.
I'm wondering if the liaison system, ideally would be done by like next week, if like writing out that, like all that legislation or however that would look in the budgetary statutes.
That would be procedural.
Procedural rules,
Yeah.
okay, in the procedural
procedural
rules, however that would look, I'm wondering if that, we would also want to put that up for review for student organizations, considering now it's a comment period for the finance board reserves.
Certainly put it on our website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if we want to put that up for review, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Are there any other things that maybe you guys picked up at the town hall, or people talked to you or anything about that, about concerns that they had? Oh. This is, of course, one of the questions. The question brought to me is the place of programs such as STAR and Splash. These organizations have always had a bit of a tenuous relationship with finance board, and the current way that it's written on campus, and that's has to be tailored. The primary audience has to be UMBC students, right? With that, though, their entire purpose is to bring non-UMBC students to campus, and we've functionally written them out. I'm trying to think of anything we can do to assist them on that one. So the idea is, don't have to be now. It's just like think about it.
I think one that I thought we saw similar to this. I think if it's like written that like an opportunity or like it's granted to like UMBC students, because like I know the main audience is like non-UMBC students,
Yeah.
but the main like volunteers participants like are UMBC students. So I know there might be other events like that. Like I think private education we kind of do
Right.
the same thing. So I don't know if there's a possibility to like talk about community, something of that nature, like community experience in that capacity, because I think like UMBC is big on that in terms of like the driver center and like connecting with the community. So I think SGA funded. I mean, obviously not like consumer funding on that, but I think trying to, like you said, right, because it is. I think it's a good use of SGA money. Like that.
I think that it could still be covered for some expenses under that language where we're providing the line items that support the UMBC students while not directly like kind of funneling the money off campus. So for like example, if it was an all-day like volunteer opportunity, that we could provide them food and transportation to the location. But if they wanted to like give away items like they did at the preschool, we would not fund that.
Something to consider.
Yeah, that's kind of how we approached it.
So far, we're hybrid.
We want to support you because this is valuable to you students, even though they're not the primary
Yeah.
attendees.
So we'll definitely need to reword that if we're gonna put that in there. So we need a draft language then. Additional thoughts, anyone? Other things?
In the document itself, I just added some things, but like when were we expecting? Well, no, never mind, you said about the legal one. I guess my other thing was just the wording for like sanctions.
Yeah, we're going to get to that one, penalties or something.
Oh, does that have to go through legal too?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
everything's going on with it right now.
Okay.
They're
Those are the
trying to get it to me by the end of the month, so we'll have 2 weeks after that to make
Oh.
it. So, definitely.
So this is kind of not related to finance board reform, so I can wait until after if you want. But if SGA has access to legal counsel, one of the things the retriever said about like having such a large reserves yesterday was that they needed to have that money in case of legal problems. Is the retriever covered by the general counsel that SGA uses?
Could be.
Yes.
I mean, I would assume, like,
Because
assuming.
they are funded by the university.
Yeah, so like
So
assuming
they're,
they're.
they're a university entity,
So they don't need the reserves that high for legal counsel?
probably not.
Okay.
Because if someone was going to sue the retriever, they would in essence be suing the university,
Yeah.
because they are funded by university dollars.
So that,
If
yeah.
they
And
were
if they
an
fund this
independent paper,
individual,
if they were an independent paper, they would need to retain their own legal counsel, and more than likely have an insurance policy.
yeah.
Okay.
As a targeted individual, at that point, they can't use retriever funds anyways. So they can't use the reserves to purchase legal counsel for that person.
They would fall under the university's
Yeah.
Okay. So should somebody reach out to Julia Arvidas?
I'm meeting with this.
Okay.
Yeah. Additional things, anyone? Things that we want to see, other like concerns, have you missed any other
I
concerns?
took notes yesterday's
Yeah.
feedback session on what people were saying and the general kind of feedback and initial thoughts people were having. I mean, the biggest ones are obviously concerns about the budget packet making,
Yeah.
and like those deadlines for submitting that, as well as obviously like, well, how will the old e-board be like influencing the budget for the new e-board, and how can we actually make sure it's like the new e-board like deciding what they want to like have budgeted for the following semester, and all that stuff. So I mean,
I
like
think
you
that's
all
addressed
were
as the
there.
reallocation thing.
Hmm?
That's generally comes through the reallocation thing.
Yeah, that was the other big concern I was having and thinking
Yeah.
about it, like, because I talked to David Hoffman about like what was like our new budget system. He's like, yeah, that was the House of Organizations like 10 years ago, and it was like a similar process of submitting a budget, and then they would just get like a butt ton of allocation requests like throughout the year, or reallocation requests I should say throughout the year. Like, oh, we have this budget and we're actually changing around this money to here and there. So I'm wondering how to mitigate that and not make it so that like, oh, we pass all the budgets at the beginning of the semester, and then just throughout the semester, there's tons of reallocation request forms coming through, and like, how to make that actually like.
So the way I think is just like, well, that's the nature of it, you know. I think through the liaison system, we can definitely spread the responsibilities out a bit more.
Right.
Yeah, so just like the small things, like, you know, okay, like, you know, we want to move a little bit, 100 from contractor to, oh, our ECS wasn't a contractor estimate or whatever it is. We'll cover that a little bit. We probably should establish the rules for that. Like, finance board liaison can sign off and say, yeah, that's perfectly fine with us. And then,
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry.
I think it's a valid concern.
It is.
But I think that, I don't know if there's a perfect system that's gonna solve all the problems of allocating money to student loans. It's either you know what's coming in and then you can budget accordingly, or you don't know what's coming in, or you can budget accordingly and then you have to manage reallocations, or you don't know what's coming in and you have to guess and then end up in a place where you were in December. So it's, I think, thinking about.
Lesser of two evils.
Pardon?
Lesser of two evils.
Right, which one is going to be less difficult to manage over the long term? Which one is going to allow you as a body to effectively manage the student dollar, and give it out to student organizations in the fairest way possible?
Yeah.
I would argue that your current system makes that really hard, because you never know what's going in the door. You just don't. And that's just the nature of the system. So, yeah. It's really hard. But yes, it is something to think about, for sure. To figure out how do you manage reallocation in a way that's fair and equitable, and that is efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Carly, do you want to say anything else with that? Well, and it's like, because they're having that, like, do you mind? Or, if you have something.
Oh, well, I was just like wondering, like, obviously, yeah, it's like more important that like finance board is able to allocate the funds like effectively and equitably to all student organizations. Because I'm just wondering with the current way the reallocation system is set up is that the treasurer signs off on all reallocations for student org. So I'm wondering, will this just be a pileup of the future treasurer to deal with that? Like, I kind of like the idea of the liaison system with the caveat that it's not, like, obviously with the liaison system, it shouldn't be, the liaison of a student organization shouldn't be someone who's heavily involved in that organization.
Yep, definitely.
Or like any,
Don't
plays
need
any
to be
role in
about
that,
that,
because that is obviously a
Yep.
conflict of interest, and that just plays back into
Yep.
repeating the past of the mistakes. So, yeah, I'm wondering with that, but I kind of like that idea. And I'm also wondering if it could just be like another finance board of sort of responsibility
Yeah,
that the
definitely.
board like is to say, oh, you want to change that around, you don't need to like figure that out.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
That's
Just
what
balancing it.
that's how I was picturing it.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, we diffuse the responsibility of the allocation to the entire board. And then like the big reallocations, like we want to change massive line items and stuff like that. We can establish some rules, like if you want to move more than $1,000
Okay.
or a percentage of your money or something like that. And you know, there's a game rule, but like, you know, something like some types of system where it governs, okay, at what point do financial liaisons have the, what's it called?
Authority.
Authority to, capacity to like, make a decision. And at what point does it need to be boosted up to the entire board to make a determination on? Hello. Hello, Michael. Hello, hello. Take a seat over there. Thank you, okay. So no, that's like generally how I was seeing it, and like, you know, it would not be only the treasurer's.
Right. Yeah. I see that.
All right, Scott.
So, this has already kind of been said, but I want to express it myself as well. So I'm really unhappy with how the current reallocation system is. Basically allowing Carly to completely rewrite what the board decides, it seems, and working in the office where the money is actually spent. I have seen student organizations request like money for an event and then completely throw off those percentages, like throwing all their money into like housing if we funded travel and housing or other things. And one of the things I was worried about is that in a budgeting system, clubs could ask for money for an event and then like put in a line item for food or something else and decide like when the event comes along, hey, we don't actually want food anymore, we want more money for an entertainer or something like that.
Okay. And it's just
But
like,
I think like having the liaison work closely like with a small cap and authorizing that, and then having the chair check off too, or and then having like moving the responsibility away from the treasurer entirely into the entire board to like re-look at requests if there's big changes. I think that is a good idea.
yeah, I mean, it's just like the organizations, if they really wanted to do something big like that, like with all of our, you know, we like came to the decision that we don't want to do that yet. Those types of big decisions, like they just removed an entire line item, those would come through back to the board. And we're like, okay, so like what changed? What happened? And like, you know, walk us through the entire process of what changed, and then the board gets the final say at that point. It's just like, no. Or, yeah, sure, you know, that makes sense, you know. You had the change of ideas from the old board, and at the end of the day, if you make a determination that food is not required, the overall amount, like the overall amount of the budget wouldn't change, obviously, right? Like for every single event, if you're allocated $6,000, you get $6,000. There's no increase in that unfortunately. But if you really feel like, yeah, I think it's just like it's in the best interest of our organization, we really feel like the UBC community would resonate more with a better performer like this. And it's like we grant them the ability to petition. It's just like, okay, these big type of changes we can see by us. Smaller things, you know, we'll grant them the ability, like, you know, work well with your liaison, get that through. It doesn't even come all the way up. And we just need to establish what the rules for that are. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I still think even the small ones should at least go by the chair of the treasurer, just because you might get a situation where the liaison says, oh, I'm not really heavily involved in this organization.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're
you're right.
slide through. And I think the issue is
Yeah.
that while I would love to trust every organization,
Fantastic.
I can't.
It works well.
And that would be, since your chair is your most impartial person, can't be part of an e-board, that kind of stuff that you were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
it works
Maybe the
well.
person can just sign off, even if it's like a small $100 change.
Yeah, it works well. I like it. So then, because the chair is independent now, and it just gets elevated to them, so that's their responsibility. And then or like the vice chair or something like that is like responsible solely for those type of things. and we can expand the independence eligibility requirement to them as well.
I think it should be the vice chair, just because in the event the chair can't act, the vice chair is supposed to step up, so you're gonna need those two people to be
Yeah.
independent.
We'll see. We can flesh the system out. But yeah, there's definitely like, a reallocation system, something we do need to add with, because there's been heavy demand for it, and as well, it makes sense for us to have. So, yeah. We got something out of these town halls, everyone. Woo!
Brainstorming,
Yeah.
love it, yes.
Love the people. Okay, additional things, anyone? Scott?
Just, I think you already mentioned it, but
Yeah.
like before an organization goes to SABSC, having it checked off. So the thing that currently said where people spend money differently than they say they will
Yeah.
doesn't occur. You know, we can kind of like
We can just add demand signatures and
Audit.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Wait, what was that?
So like when an organization, like they get the rest cap, right? So like, I think that they go actually go take the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point they need to be, that's like, it needs to be signed off by a couple people actually. You know, just like, okay, don't just go randomly change this, because David can't catch everything, right? Those type of things. So maybe like a liaison, like takes a look at it, and then sends that to the vice chair for approval, and then we just pass it on to David instead of them doing it, or something like that. I don't know. Janice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's excellent. I think that also would mean that you need to say, okay, here's when you do these things, right? Like, because you don't really have office hours,
Yeah.
hours that the office is open.
I mean, after like the passage of the budget, Tuesday meetings can literally just be finance board getting through all the logistics, making sure that everything runs smoothly, and that's perfectly fine. You're getting paid to do work. All right. You have on Tuesday evenings, you have 4 hours. You need to get through all this stuff so that it can all be submitted by whatever deadline for SABC or something. Give them a strict under, give them a timeline of like, what's this supposed to look like? All right, so I submitted it to my liaison. How long of a turnaround time? So your liaison will go through this on Tuesday. I'll pass it off to the chair for approval, and then we can just get that through and stuff like that. Since Tuesday meetings will mostly just be working meetings now, where the finance board can monitor things, making sure everything's going smoothly, because there's nothing else to do.
It's just about, you just end up compressing your work, right?
Yeah.
If you get all your finance board representatives and all the important people in one room for 4 hours, then it's easier to get the work done.
Yeah, and it's just like, you can go like, oh, sorry, I didn't see my email or something like that. Well, we're all at this meeting, sign this, go through this, make sure everything is good. Division out the labor. It's like if someone's getting overwhelmed, then at that point you can division out labor and stuff like that as well.
Who's working on it?
Looks like, oh, who wants to help me?
with the liaison program.
I mean, with many
Well,
things.
reallocation and the,
Yeah.
it sounds like those two things are
Who's
tied
interested?
together.
All right, Scott.
Yeah.
I don't know how much capacity I can put into that.
No.
I think Brenda also
We're
wanted
not sleeping
help
today.
with something.
This gets done tomorrow.
Have tomorrow. What?
You wanted help with something in the Slack chat too.
Yes. Can I
So,
talk with it?
Definitely.
So Colin wants
Oh,
people.
hi,
Colin wants people to help with putting the budget reform stuff on the website. And yeah, talking because he was looking for people on Slack and numbers.
Yeah. Hey, remember everyone, this is part of your responsibilities as a finance board representative. So, chop chop,
Oh my god.
Where is CS major self?
Enjoy. Okay, Khalil's going to help you out with the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good job.
We love initiative. Voluntold. All right, seeing that, are there additional things that anyone would like to discuss?
Like announcements.
Well, further reform, yeah. Before we move on to the next topic.
What?
No, we're still reformed.
Did you have an announcement?
We're still reformed.
Oh.
I
No,
do.
we were in announcement,
Oh.
No, don't worry, Scott. We'll get to your announcements. I know you were going to
I
say.
do have one more thing about the
Yeah.
reforms, in particular with, obviously not, well, basically the same discussion we just had with both the theater groups about costumes and props and how that will kind of be, I guess, looked at going forward. Knowing that with the new budget system, we wouldn't necessarily be funding them. But I think it is important that we have a conversation with the theater groups now, between us and Campus Life and SABSC about like a way to kind of mitigate that, so it's not like a straight cut off, I guess, from costumes and props. because I'll bring it up during my passing out, but I have an idea about that. But yeah, I just want to, I guess, be mindful of like how that impacts the theater groups on campus, because the budgeting process may be more beneficial to certain groups than to other groups, and that is like especially something to be mindful in like the language that we're writing for this, so it doesn't come off as, well, obviously the big organizations get the most money and the little organizations get the least amount of money. So I guess just something to keep in mind.
Right.
So, hear you. And I think one of the things that we talked about was briefly having another town hall public forum type situation that we have on Monday, but maybe in a little bit lighter of a room. Not like less people, but like less, you're sitting in.
Less formal.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Explaining those changes and having conversations with people so that they're aware of them when time comes closer. So like maybe around spring break before or after.
Okay.
So, additional comments on the reform. Proposed reform, sorry. We love ourselves, the P word.
Sorry, what?
You love what?
I love the P word.
Proposed. Okay.
Proposed. We love proposed. Proposed. Stimulus. All right, let's move on to announcements. Since Tanya is not here, I will do one in her stead. SRCs are doing Thursday. Do them. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. Scott, you have an announcement from what I've been told from Linda. I've been
So, first announcement or kind of like question is, so in our bylaws, Finance Board has the power to establish committees, and with the proposed increase to stipends, I think that SRC should be changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if there was interest in forming a committee to reform SRC and maybe get some people and other stakeholders, or Senate and other stakeholders in SRC together to talk about how to actually change SRC. It says that through the chair or the process of legislation to form a committee.
Oh, that's me.
You can literally say
So-
yes, you can make a committee, and that will literally suffice.
Yes.
All right, that's an affirmation, yes. I expect that in the minutes. Million thumbs up.
Just one thumb up too.
Yeah.
Like just one.
Right. Okay.
The second announcement that Brenda was hinting at is I went to Senate last night, and we have gotten enough people like interested in Green Dot training that we will be setting up a time with Jackie Stone. Not tomorrow since school is closed now, but sometime in the future.
Okay.
This is a reschedule for P4.
But
Did you put it? Yep.
What?
Announcements. Okay, so this is kind of an announcement. So this is like an idea. So Hannah Sadala, who was in the treasurer ministry last year, actually has been communicating with me over the past couple of weeks or so. She wants to do, there's a financial literacy week in the first week of April that she wants SGA to do kind of an event for that with particular, I believe, for literacy, financial literacy for student organizations, which kind of goes hand in hand with all this finance board reform of like, hey, funding money for things that student orgs do. So we don't really have that many ideas for what the event could be. It's just, but it'll be April 4th. I'm thinking around in like the afternoon. That's a Thursday. Either around like 1 or so in the afternoon. And so I have like a couple ideas for an event, if it could be like a Jeopardy or something like that. But please let me know if you're interested. / I'll probably send you an email anyway if you're interested. And yeah, definitely working with Zane and SOST on that. Because, you know, financial literacy is important for everyone. Okay. The other announcement I had was about actually talking about reallocations. I have a reallocation from ISA from last week, and they had. So we had. What did we add on their marketing package onto their request, and they wanted to submit a reallocation to change the money used for the marketing package since it's too late to do that because their event is 3 days away. And Commission said we can't do that in 3 days. So
Understandable.
yeah, understandable. They want to rearrange their marketing package money, the $250 that was allocated them, to decorations. Again, their event is 3 days away, but I wanted to bring that up with you all to kind of get your opinion on that, I guess. So.
Yeah. So normally I'd be okay with it, but because we're running down the line. I'd personally like to see that money go somewhere else if they're unable to use it to what we asked them to do. So, yeah.
I also don't remember how much money. Like I don't remember how the breakdown was of that total.
Yeah.
But like you.
How much was allocated to them?
Huh?
How much was allocated to them?
$9,912.16. 16 cents in one table. Yeah. $23,000 was remains.
So 40. Did you say 23 remains?
Well, without rollover, without accounting rollover.
Okay.
Yeah, which is what I'm willing to go with 20,000 for.
So if I could speak on the
Yeah, sorry,
reallocation
go ahead.
So they want to take the marketing money and put it in decorations?
Yes.
Are these decorations we've seen? Because I thought we fully funded the decorations that
That's
were.
what I was wondering too. That's why I wanted to double check. Like I'm double checking on that now. But I just wanted to bring that to y'all attention because like I'd like to be more transparent with y'all about the allocation, so it's not just me saying sure.
So on the reallocation request, I'm against it. We gave them $250 for marketing. They can still use it towards marketing, even if it's not common vision. They can print signs and get reimbursed for that. They can do other things. I don't think we should give them $250 towards decorations that we have not seen or that they did not submit on time.
If we funded some funded decorations, why would we? Yeah.
Scott.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, Scott, right?
Yeah, I'm Scott.
Sorry, you guys speak up now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't see you. All right. Just to clarify, could you give what you just said again?
Oh,
Yeah.
I said, why would we fund decorations again? That's very so.
All right. Easy off.
Hey, yeah, I agree. In terms of marketing, that's what it was designated for. And then, yeah, just because of what it was designated for and the, realization that we already funded fully decorations. Yeah. Not sure what it would be used for, and then specifically for decorations that we haven't seen.
So the board would prefer not to authorize it, but again, power lies within the treasurer on these nominations. So we heard you. So.
I get that. Yeah, I think that's just another hint of the law of reallocations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. Cool. I will take that into consideration and not sign this. For decorations that you guys didn't request for, you should be able to use that money for things like what has not actually been approved. Okay. Cool. What's the thing I want to talk about right now?
I do actually have one more thing. I know we passed by board reforms. We do need to begin the implementation and education segment of this part. There are 275 organizations that review boards are leaving, and elections are happening. There's turnover happening everywhere. We gotta get out there, and we have to establish a plan on how we're going to be actually educating these people on how this hiring process will work. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we have to get something like that. So that's the thing. Another thing to add to the things we need to do. Of course, this one isn't as urgent because we do need to get something passed first before we are able to form the concrete details of an education plan. But yeah, education is one. Keep that on the back of your head. All right. Anyone else have any other announcements?
Do you want to at least get start around that of like, oh, we have this presentation kind of explaining what all these federal reforms are and explaining the budgetary
There's
sessions.
probably meetings before.
Yeah.
Well, I think the website's gonna be pretty crucial.
Yes.
We can integrate it into like the education thing. Could we design something like on the website so that I plan on assigning everyone organization. It's just like I apologize. This semester the liaison thing I completely slipped up on it. Perfectly, it's 100% my fault, but it is an integral part of how we want to educate these people. So why do I say these people? How we want to educate student organizations. So I will be getting back onto that one because I think it's my opinion it's a very important thing to have.
I'm also wondering if there's a way that we can involve more FYAs in this as well.
Certainly.
Because
I'd like to draft 10 FYAs as a thank you.
like y'all,
Wonderful.
half this room is very old, so I was obviously including kids as well.
Obviously.
Oh my god.
He really attacks
All right. So we should definitely start working on that one. But other additional announcements? Scott.
Kind of tied into what I said earlier, since
Yeah.
I got 2 thumbs up for the committee. Does
Does
anybody
not
want
mean you have free ability to do anything you like.
Does anybody want to like put their name down to be like involved? I know
Put me
we
down, Scott.
talked about it before.
Put Scott down. Not Scott. Put yourself down. Yeah, you do that. Put me down. And then imagine draft some people from Senate.
Yeah, I was gonna go there.
Actually,
I'm pretty good on this recording.
I'll talk about
I'll
it.
do the committee.
Same.
It's a finance board's committee. I mean, can we actually just grab people from Senate to go to that?
Isn't
We can make it a
Does that be a joint committee then?
That's what I was asked Jared about
Yeah.
after this meeting.
So that was like my big concern. So I'm not gonna go like, yeah, go ahead and grab people. Like, I don't think we have authority to do that.
You can. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, there's no formal process to make a committee. There's no requirement for who members are or are not.
I can just turn. Wait, sorry, Scott. I'll do it later. 1 second.
Don't rename my committee yet.
Watch this. It's gone. It's back. It's gone. It's back. Are there any additional announcements? It's been a lengthy announcement process.
Wash your hands.
Wash your
Rolling around on campus. It's hit.
Flu vaccinations, yada, yada, yada. Oh, I recognize that I am present. Carly is present. Scott is present. Kunal is present. Jessica is present. And Zane is present.